the middle of some purples too.
Damn, that's really unfortunate. But welcome back to Roundup, everybody. I hope we've all been having a lot of fun opening our 35-cent sticker capsules from the Paris Major. How many sicko foils have you opened? You know, how many golds have you opened? Me, not that many. Trust me, I have not spent any money on this sale whatsoever. Luth, what about you?
I'm still going.
Still going? Is this it?
Good boy.
Damn. That's it.
Ooh.
That's the Greyhound
Ali
stickers that we
glitter.
love to see.
That
Very
actually
good.
goes kind of fucking hard. I'm not gonna
Very
lie.
good. Very good. Well, everyone, be sure to get in there and open the contenders capsules.
Yeah.
Yeah, get in there. Get in there. I want to
that's the one I
see
want,
in
yeah.
the comments. Tell us the best Greyhound sticker that you've opened. We've got a bit of a loaded show. Very good. Some very big news that we'll headline with. We'll jump into. We're going to go through some ANZ Champ stuff, some other bits and pieces, but I think we may as well just address the elephant in the room. It is the return of the Intel Extreme Masters to Sydney.
Woo!
Very good. Very good.
Out.
That's very good. So yeah, obviously this week they've announced IEM Sydney coming back in October. It's the first event since 2019. We've had a couple sort of DreamHack trips to Melbourne, which were fantastic, but the IEM in Sydney it's just a whole different beast. Different venue this time. But I assume both of you guys have your tickets?
Of course. Premium.
Very good.
Premium. Which of course you obviously must have purchased as well, Ash.
Oh yes, I've 1,000,000% got my tickets secured for the event. I definitely did not delay. And I definitely will not be scrambling to get tickets later, closer to.
Yeah, but honestly, it's been quite insane. Like, I think the big thing has been just how quickly tickets went. I think it was within the first like 10 minutes or so, I remember seeing like half the premium tickets gone, and then like within the hour, something like that, the rest of them go, then GA Plus, then those $1,400 God Mode tickets all gone too. The only thing that's left is those GA tickets, which last ESL updated was 80% of those are sold as well. So you know it's going to sell out. Like that is a guaranteed thing to happen at this point. So if you haven't already got tickets, obviously the best ones with Row F and Premium are gone, but you sure as hell can still get your GA tickets, and make sure you go, because this is going to be insane. This is going to be such a good event.
Absolutely. I think it just goes to show with how quick they sold out, how keen we are. It's not quite a major. We'll get there one day, but no, I think it's going to be super keen. Flam, what are you most excited about for IEM?
I can't wait to just heckle any of the casters. Just any of them. I just want to heckle them.
We bring back the elfish guy. Elfish guy. Chance.
Absolutely
selfish
reasonable.
guy.
Yeah.
Selfish guy. Selfish guy.
No, that's
selfish guy.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Actually, I've heard a rumor his parents are going to be there, so we can't be mean to him.
There you go. You
Positive
heard it
only.
here first.
So
only positive vibes
so
at
we can't be mean to
IEM.
him. We can't be mean to Jordan Elfish Guy Mays because his parents are going to be there. We can't be mean to him.
No, I'm excited just for it to be in the heart of Sydney. As I'm going to be honest, I did not enjoy having to go all the way out to the Olympic Park.
Yeah.
Kind of doo-doo if you wanted to do anything in the CBD and all that. I know Lidcombe is the home of esports allegedly, but
Allegedly.
not anymore it looks like. So yeah, keep an eye out for IEM. I think we're going to definitely do a lot more tailored content toward a lot closer to the event when we know the teams. We sort of have a bit more of an idea what's going on, but IEM coming back is huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely massive.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be great seeing like people like Sponge and some of the international talent as well. Make sure if you want some extra podcast stuff to listen to, go listen to the latest Talking Counter podcast where they just shoot the shit for 2 hours about last IEM events. I think it was Sponge, Moses, Machine, Yanko. Good listen.
Absolutely.
But go watch our podcast first, obviously.
Yeah. Finish watching this. Cool. Well, let's jump into some sort of domestic stuff. Last couple episodes, we've been following Greyhound overseas. We've been following Mouse. We've been following G2. All that stuff sort of come to a close. We've got a lot of international roster shenanigans going on. But since last recording, we've had sort of ANZ Champs and Main wrap up. And the big thing was Champs. Everyone was like, well, Greyhound's, just been on this massive sort of international circuit. Are they just going to come home and be all, knackered as they should be? Or is what going to end up happen, and are they just going to still win out? So what did we think of Greyhound taking ANZ champs? Spoilers if you haven't watched them games yet.
Oh, wow. Wow, I couldn't have seen that one coming.
Wow.
Wow, that's a bombshell,
Oh.
Ash.
Yeah.
I think there was
How could
the obvious thing to happen, even with Falcon stepping in. Obviously, good to see that one of the John Industries lads, of course, John himself, taking out an ANZ main title technically. So,
Champs.
obviously, the
ANZ
biggest
champs.
point out of the whole thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. I didn't have any other big takeaways other than that.
Yeah.
No, obviously it qualifies them straight to ESL Pro League. So we're going to have another qualifier coming up soon. But that spot in Pro League, Flam, would you agree, is the sort of the big thing in ANZ champs? Winning that, just skipping straight into into ESL Pro League is like, it's the whole point.
It's international experience. You need that. You want that in OCE. If we want teams here to improve, they need to get that international experience. And, winning champs, easiest way. We expected Greyhound to get an ESL Pro League spot anyway. But there is still one more up for grabs. It's going to be a really heavy fight between, mainly three teams: Vertex, Rooster, Eliminators. They're the real three that I see. There could be a fourth that comes up and surprises me. But for that second Pro League spot, it's invaluable experience that pretty much every single team in OCE except Greyhound needs to, get, essentially.
If you had to pick one of those three teams who will get the Pro League slot?
Oh, why have you done this to me?
Don't all decide at once. I think Vertex will get it.
Yeah, I'm thinking Vertex. I think I'm leaning towards Vertex. I think they've pretty well cemented themselves in that second place position. I think the only real contender otherwise would be Rooster, but I think Vertex probably just having that slight edge above them, maybe. So I think I think that's probably who I'd favor going into it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree. I reckon Eliminators have got it. As much as I hate Floggers, like Eliminators, they're playing well. They're playing well recently, and they're a great dark horse at the moment to go and support if you want a Pro League spot for them. So.
You made the right call last episode when you said keep an eye on
Yeah,
them.
that's
They're going to
true.
get into the
That's
playoffs,
true.
and they did. So, I'd maybe don't sleep on Eliminators. You heard it here first.
Or I might just be right.
Like a good upset.
I might just be right.
Yeah. No, I'd like to see that.
So that's obviously something that we're going to be looking forward to as well as IEM. Is Pro League will come up at a later date. We'll go through those groups a bit more. We'll follow those two teams through that event. We also had ANZ Main. I know that we've got Mr. Main himself, Flam. Sort of talk us through what, because I know not everyone has the time to follow all the games in Main, or some people just sort of check the score of champs. They check Main. What happened in Main? What was like the big storyline at the end?
Are you telling me that people have lives, Ash?
Whoa.
Wow.
Esports, let's not go that far.
What's going on, man?
no,
You saying
that's
I'm
a
a
bit
no
of a
life with
stretch.
ANZ, mate? No, we saw DXA and Mindfreak. They both got themselves that last champ qualification spot with champs. And of course, those were the two teams that faced off in main grand final. It was a best of 5. DXA ended up taking it. A 3-1 with 15 overtimes in Overpass. I'm really sick of that map. I'm not going to lie. Sorry, Inferno, my apologies. I'm really sick of Inferno. But the main storyline is that DXA, they're through to champs next season. We don't have to worry about Monitors Boys anymore. Thank God, I hate that guy. But still another season with MJ. It gets worse, I guess. But plenty of movement within teams for Maine at the moment. We see Arcade picking up Mr. Shark, with Deadweight falling away and crumbling into the ocean below it that was bound to happen with Mr. Shark on a roster. Arcade pick him up. We see Hazy leaving. That was a team that made top 4, even with very, very little expectations. We saw the same with Dynasty. They made top 4 with very little expectations. I came 3rd, if I remember correctly. But all in all, a great competitive season for ANZ Main, and it shows you that tier 2 in Australian Counter-Strike, it's starting to, heal itself after ESEA decided to, kick everybody in the ribs and shatter a few in the process. But, it's healing. OCE's back. kind of in terms of competitive play.
Nature is
somewhat,
healing.
Nature's
Yep.
barely getting its
No,
shit
that's a
together.
good way to put it. It kind of really does feel like nature is healing a little, no? Like
Yeah. No,
IEM
I think
coming
so.
back. We've
Yeah.
got the sort of the skill gap is coming back. There's a lot more teams to keep our eye on. It's really good. We're good. We're eating well right now.
Yeah, I feel like with ANZ main in particular, like there's just also a lot of opportunity being provided to teams, and a lot of different things to be able to play as well, and and we're going to be getting into some of that as well. We've even got we've got a whole upcoming local LAN coming up that we'll be talking about shortly. But it's just like overall, I think, yeah, I know it's crazy, right? $10,000 LAN. Anyway,
What?
anyway, I don't know. It feels like with seeing some of these players, especially coming back to rosters, seeing Foggers playing again, for example, and some of the faces of that ESEA ban wave, from a couple of years back now. Yeah, it really feels like things are starting to kind of finally recover after COVID especially for the tier 2 scene, but also, a bit beyond with the big tier 1 events coming back and everything. It's nice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In terms of some of those changes in OS, there are some maybe not so, I don't know, some up in the air kinds of
Interesting
ones as
ones.
well. Some interesting ones. There's a lot of different ways to sort of approach it. And I am, of course, hinting at the ESEA changes in the region. I'm not going to lie, I don't necessarily have my finger on the pulse as well as you two do on this one. So guide me through what there is to be discussed here.
Yeah, so from what I understand, because obviously it's a lengthy blog post and there's not quite a lot of things, but basically with ESEA open, and with all these ESEA leagues being run globally, they're all moving over to the FACEIT platform. That's the big headliner change that's coming around, where it's like, obviously, a while ago, ESL FACEIT both got bought out and merged into one big ESL FACEIT group. So it kind of makes, I don't know, it's been kind of weird for a while that they've still maintained two platforms, both ESEA and FACEIT, kind of doing a similar thing. And it feels like ESEA, the pug experience has been very left behind. So it's just been left to, it's just been left for leagues.
Decompose.
Yeah, and then it kind of
Yeah.
feels like that's been falling apart a bit. So I think, in a way, consolidating everything makes a lot of sense. Because even right now, ESEA is a separate client and anti-cheat, and it's like, if you're thinking like the same people could be working across both of these, like what's the point? There's two different subscriptions. It's like, I don't know, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think from their perspective, it makes a lot of sense to be doing this.
As a product, I get it. That makes sense.
Yeah, as a product, it makes a lot of sense.
And then the big question is, are we, because it's the big ESL FACEIT group, are we going to see ESL just say to FACEIT, look, let's just take out the entire competitive landscape from FACEIT, especially in OCE, where, we only have ESEA now FACEIT open technically. Do we see ESL sort of streamline that process to create one big sort of competition with ANZ Champs, ANZ Main, ANZ Open, something potentially like that? And then, does it have implications where other TOs and other sort of competitions, sort of like LPL, do they eventually phase out? Do they, do they stay together as a league to give a second option, even when ESL is the one where it's saying, if you can rise the ranks, you can get yourself a pro league spot, you can get yourself international experience if, you stick together as a roster, if you continue to improve as a team, as players. It's going to be interesting to see what's sort of happening in the air. There's a lot that can happen because ESEA is now shut down. It streamlines a whole lot of the processes for ESL to really have a stronghold over OCEs as a region, especially with how weak OCE at the moment is. Even though we were talking about how nature's healing itself, it's still pretty much a wounded deer next to train tracks. Like where it's going to take. I mean, why are you laughing at that, Ash? You're making me laugh now.
No, I get what I get where you're coming from, because it's kind of like
it's going to take a lot.
Well, it's kind of like the fact that we are kind of ignoring the elephant in the room, which is that right now, and even before this merger, ESL is the only entity propping up OC Counter-Strike for the most part, in terms of at least consistent online leagues and all of that. Because right now, LPL, who's always been the main competitor, aren't running as many CS products at the moment. Hence we haven't really been talking about them on the show. They haven't been running LPL Pro in the same way that they have in times before. They haven't been running Challenger either. And they've still been running some of their amateur leagues and all of that, and it's still going. But it's like, as far as what we're talking about, like where the best players are going to play right now, and for I think a fair few months now, it's all been ESL products. And that's kind of been the interesting thing. So now we're seeing another consolidation and a big move coming around, and there's some good things out of it already. We've had so the next ESEA season is going to be delayed until the release of Counter-Strike 2. That's already been confirmed, because they don't want to start a season in between the transition of the games. Fair enough. And they've already announced that they're going to be doing some weekly tournaments on FACEIT, apparently. Even saying that there's a $2,000 prize pool for some of these Cash Cup tournaments they're going to be doing in Oceania, which is fantastic. It's really good to see, even just for some of this preseason stuff, that they're trying to make the most of it. But again, it's just that same question of like, it's this one entity propping up all of our tournament system. Yeah,
it sounds like like they've put everything into one little spot, and it's like better.
Yeah.
I lost the word there. And so that's really good as a product, but the scary part, the negative, the con to the pro is like, well, we don't really know what that's going to look like or how it's going to function and whether or not it's going to be a net positive, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not that it's scary. It's that in the future there's a lot that can happen, and so at the moment, if you're sitting here, you don't know what the future's going to hold. Are we going to see ESL eventually streamline their whole competitive league and sort of dominate the market at the moment, where TOs like LPL don't really have a place anymore in OCE, or are we going to continue to see this sort of group where there's an elite group of players who can play in ESL tournaments, and then there's just the sort of spare parts or the extras of competitive teams and competitive players who are fully capable of playing at the top level? Are they just going to be left over to the side where they don't get the opportunity to really compete with some of the big dogs, to compete with a lot of the top? And then, for the negative scary bit is that, what happens to LPL? What do they need to do to continue to stay competitive in a marketplace which is slowly looking to be dominated by ESL? That's for those scary bits. Those are the early two. Is the fact that we're not seeing opportunity for good players, and we're not seeing competition, and the fact that more needs to be done for a TO like LPL.
Yeah, I feel like
that's
ESL's contributions have been really massive. And I think well, like ANZ Main especially has been such a net positive. Because I feel like it has been, I don't want to say a higher quality kind of tournament structure coming out and opportunity for these players, but it kind of has been. I feel like ESL really have been able to put on their best in class product for this, especially when it feels like LPL has been kind of backing away from CS and leaning more into games like Valorant. But yeah, look, it's, I guess this is just one more step in a kind of a long line of things where ultimately that's kind of just where a lot of global CS has been, but especially this region.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I get what you mean. It's like ESL have thrown out the sort of ladder off the side of the ship, and we've got that little bit to climb up, and we need to sort of make that last little reach up into main and ANZ champs. It makes sense to me. It's like I was gonna say it's a pyramid scheme, but that's not right.
Please don't call it a pyramid.
But I thought it was interesting that you were talking about opportunities where sort of the top echelon, the top players, your Greyhounds, your Vertex, get to mingle with sort of the lower tiers of the region's CS, and I thought that's a great segue because I do know someone who's helping with that, and his name is Mav, and he runs this little thing called BrisVegas. Do you guys know much about this grassroots LAN event that happens up here in the Sunshine State?
Might have a little bit to say on the matter, in fact.
Wow.
I don't know. Yeah,
well, you guys recently were up to some stuff with that. Sort of walk me through what's going on with BrisVegas Winter 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, this has been the biggest BrisVegas LAN, of course, if you don't know, which I feel like given our podcast audience, probably you do know. BrisVegas, of course, has been probably one of the longest running, if not the longest running at this point in Australia, consistent LAN tournaments. And of course, with some new sponsors going into the mix, and a lot of growth overall, a whole new venue where the last few events have been. We're now looking at an event that's just had a 31 team online qualifier for a $10,000 prize pool main event starting just under 2 weeks' time.
Very, very exciting.
Yep.
I hear that, and I'm just like, I know that we've had grassroots similar events in the country before, and I know we've got all these other things, but when you just, the buzzwords of how much money that is, how big it is, the scale, and then that sort of healing process going on in the region, this is one of the biggest events on paper that we kind of have. Am I wrong in saying that? Like, Flam, do you see that in the same way I do?
It's like the second biggest event in my calendar as a commentator. Like this might Luth, I know you're semi-retired, so it probably is the biggest event in your calendar, but this is like one of the biggest events in my calendar as well. It's like by semi-retired, I only mean that in the nicest way possible, because you had retired for a little bit.
Yeah,
I still don't know.
I took a break easing into full-time work. I want to come back and do more casting though, so keep an eye out.
Maybe you should come up with Cast BrisVegas. Come cast BrisVegas, Luther.
Maybe. I don't know. You might see at least a handful of us here on the broadcast at some point. Maybe we can sneak out on the casting couch as well. Who
Potentially.
knows?
It's not my first time on the casting couch. So anyway, there's some teams that have qualified through the open qualifier.
Anyway, so the teams are qualified
for it. You guys were obviously casting the 31 online team event. Were there some standout teams that we are going to get to see? Or who were the standout teams over that qualifier?
I mean, we did get to see Rooster playing in the online qualifier, and we got to see another remnant of another iteration of the John Industries roster, of course. We're seeing Inns, we're seeing Falcon on that roster, Keo, Helix, Laser. That's definitely going to be quite a roster to look out for, I do believe. We were seeing whole organizations come through. I think we saw Antic playing over that weekend. We saw Arcade as well. I don't believe they made it, but they, playing in the online.
They got close.
Yeah, they were getting there. We're seeing, just a lot of really good teams overall come together and make it for a really competitive bracket. In all honesty, it was a double elimination bracket, so a lot of games being played, a lot of best of threes as well. And these teams really just putting up quite a solid showing overall. I feel like, not going into every single roster in detail, because obviously we'll be doing that a bit closer to the event and over the event weekend, because given that some of us will be working that one, so be sure to tune in. But look, it's the best of the best that grassroots Counter-Strike has to put on display, and for developing talent as well. This is just such a huge opportunity, because now it is really it's the only current LAN circuit we have in this region, and despite that, it's just growing to be bigger and better than ever.
It's
and
really cool watching the people make the pilgrimage up to Brisbane, from Sydney, from Melbourne, from Perth, wherever, for a grassroots LAN. So it's always worth tuning into, because you never know who you'll get to see. And yeah, we'll be doing what we can coverage-wise, so be sure to keep an eye out for everything BrisVegas, which is not too far away, to be honest. It's only
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So
2 weeks.
Very exciting stuff. I hope you guys are pumped, because we are. I think
so pumped.
I think that kind of brings us around to the end of another episode of Roundup, right? We've got so much to look forward to.
We should round it up.
We should round it up. I'm going to use that. Let's round up. We've got lots coming up, though. So IEM Sydney will definitely be on the cards. We're going to have some more BrisVegas stuff going on. Luther is about to open a gold. Unlucky. The OC, bro.
I have a problem.
If only he was a good AWPer.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, make sure you keep opening these capsules. just like Luth is. I could sit here and do this all day. So
This could just be the
This-
rest of the podcast.
this
just add
this
another
has
20
been
minutes.
Roundup. We're gonna go open some capsules. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, turn on that notification bell, and let us know in the comments what you want to see on future episodes of Roundup. Thanks for watching.
Give us money to gamble.